The Sixth Axis podcast.
Hello and welcome to another edition of The Year According To, where we look at what's happening this year with various people from the gaming community, from development, and from some of the staff over at The Sixth Axis. As per usual, I'm your host, Kris. Today I am joined by Dan Marshall of Size 5 Games, who made the Swindle this year and other stuff that you might know, like Been There, Done That, I believe. That's
one of mine, yeah.
I don't want to get that wrong.
Everyone calls it either Been There, Done That, or Been There, Done That, but very rarely get the actual title completely correct. Who knew that was going to be such a difficult thing for people to get their heads around?
So I've been playing the Swindle today. It's a very good game.
Thank you very much.
I liked it a lot. I'm very bad at it. I'll happily say that.
I think everyone's bad at the Swindle. It's one of those games that, you know, when I started doing some of the early design work on it was, everyone was talking about Dark Souls and how good Dark Souls was for being really hard, and there was something else as well that came out. I can't remember. There was a big push at the time for like really really hard games, and everyone was really really into it. So I sort of took the Swindle in that direction because I was like, yeah, hard games are cool. Let's do some really hard. Let's make it really hard and interesting. And people find it really hard and don't and complain about the hardness. so I made it a lot easier for people right at the start, and that seems to have eased it down. I think it's just a case of, it's one of those games that you just have to sort of get your head around what it wants you to do, and then as soon as you do, it's fine. It's a game where you die a lot, but I don't think that really makes it hard. I think what makes it hard is the ability to walk away from the levels without anything if you absolutely have to. The ability to know when you're beaten, put it that way.
Yeah, there's a couple of times I've done that actually, where it's just like, this has gone horribly wrong. Like the only option is to flee.
And that's what makes it hard, is that people are completionists, right? People want to steal every penny in the building, and if you walk away with 20% of the cash every single time, the Swindle is a very, very easy game to play. But it's not. But what makes it difficult is because people insist on stealing all the money, and then eventually come a cropper and die and get really angry and annoyed at it. And they're getting annoyed at themselves. Yeah. Let's be honest.
But it's because you've got the day countdown timer, so you can't just like grind through levels going for low amount of money, because you've got the ever present number of days until you can, though,
because well, first of all, someone's completed it in 13 days.
Oh wow.
So it's completely doable. You get 100 to start with, and it's doable in 13. You can buy more days, right? So it's not exactly unlimited time, but you can keep the wolf from the door in that sort of sense. So yeah, the days thing is weird. It feels like there's a lot more time pressure than there really is. But there you go. That's one of the joys of it. I think that's what makes it special and interesting, is this constant ticking clock. Some people hate that, but I think it's brilliant. I think it makes the game.
I like it because it forces you to think a lot more about risk reward. You can't just go, oh, I'll skip this because it's too difficult, because you're like, but if I do, I've lost a day, and then
but it's better to go home with a little bit of cash in your pocket than to die and go home with nothing. And that's the thing. I think that's why people find it hard, is getting your head around that mindset that if you go for 100% and fluff it, you really have messed up. And if you'd have left 2 minutes ago, you'd be fine.
One of the things I really wanted to ask you about, though, is what is the reason, or what was the design impetus that you get if once you die, you just get a fresh character? It's not like other games where you die and it's like just get another life. In this, you're getting a brand new fresh character, although, as far as I can tell, characters are essentially interchangeable apart from aesthetic elements. Yeah,
they're basically, as someone puts it, they're basically Mr. Potato Heads, right? They've got a basic head shape, and then we just slap a different mustache and hat and clothes and stuff on this. I don't know where it came from originally. It was one of those things that I've always been interested in. I did a talk at a festival once about death in video games and how odd I find it. Playing, when you play like a narrative game, like the example I had was Uncharted, which is this fantastic sort of exciting narrative experience. And then every sort of 8 minutes or so, Nathan Drake, the the sort of lead hero of the piece dies.
Yeah.
And then we all go back in time to a point where he didn't die, and we play it again. And it's like, it's this really weird thing that sits oddly in my brain. I think I don't know. I just don't like it. I don't like the fact that we haven't thought of a way around death as a concept in games yet. And that was a long time ago. That was when the Swindle sort of first really started. And when I brought it back, I thought about how I wanted to represent people. And I've been playing a lot of XCOM as well, which is still I think it came out in 2012. I think that's still my game of the year because I play it every year now, and it's still wonderful. The remake thing they did. And one of the things I really liked about that is the attachment you have with soldiers and when they die. And it was something I wanted to do in a little sense. So having a randomly generated character, when the game generates you a random character and they've got a really cool hat and a really cool look and a really cool name and they're doing really, really well for you, and then they die, is kind of horrible. And,
yeah, I've definitely experienced that.
I always felt that Swindle was kind of that game a little bit. The sort of horror of that moment was something I desperately wanted to sort of capitalize and use, because I think that's what the Swindle is about. Is in a lot of senses is about that sort of gut wrenching feeling in your stomach when something's gone wrong.
Yeah,
and So that was kind of a critical point of it, really. And having it was a nice way around not being happy with how death works in games and not being happy, and wanting that feeling of having lost someone special, I guess. That's
a very good point, actually, because it's this weird thing where death is completely meaningless and incredibly meaningful at the same time.
Like, you might as well not bother having it, right? Because all I'm going to do is reload and go back in time. So why is it like the best? The Arkham Knight game, I think it was probably one of the early ones. The Arkham Asylum one did this great thing where, so Batman could die and it would reload, and you had to sit through the loading stuff and all that sort of thing. But if you messed up a jump into like a pit of gas or something, he would just automatically batarang his way out of it and go back to a platform.
Yeah,
that made it start. So you didn't have to sit through the loading screen. There was no sort of weird thing where Bruce Wayne is dead now and we all go back in time. It was just this. It made perfect sense in context. It was like, Batman has messed up this jump, but we've whatever it's called, the rope thing, we've grappled our way out of it, but now I have to redo it because I fluffed it up. Works really well as a thing. It's like, why don't we do more of this sort of thing? But it's just, I don't know. It's just one of those little bugbears in games that I find annoying. Like when I'm playing, Fallout at the moment, I'm dying a lot in Fallout as well. It's just weird seeing your character just explode and you read some tooltips and then you go back to a point where you saved. It feels old school, doesn't it? It feels like it's from a time where we couldn't do anything better tech wise.
Yeah, I mean, there was the Prince of Persia games where you play with the
rewind thing. You see, that was nice, but you can't have that in every game.
No, you can't.
But that's a really nice way of getting around it. It's like the idea of an Alien game where instead of dying, if you messed up and got caught by the aliens or whatever, they don't kill you. They take you back to their nest and string you up on a wall, and you've got to escape. And you just keep escaping from their whatever that slime stuff they put on you and strap you to a wall in it.
That's a nice idea.
And like little things like that instead of death just lift the game a lot to me. But there you go. So so Swindle was kind of a sort of experiment.
I don't know what it is. It's just something about it that's absolutely. It just feels very tight, I guess, as well. And because everything moves so quickly, and the other thing I really like is death is not distinguished from level completion almost, in that you still get the level over screen, and it's just like you didn't get any money because you died, you idiot.
Yeah. It's exactly the same whether you do well or badly. It's just a different line of text. It's quite a cruel world, actually, the Swindle world, isn't it? It's quite, it's quite matter of fact.
Well, you're talking about procedural generation of characters, but obviously you've got the level procedural generation in there as well.
Yeah.
Which sometimes will completely just fuck players over.
Yeah.
Where there's I definitely have experienced it where there's computers that are nigh impossible to get to.
Yeah, this is another one of my. You see, this is the trouble with being an indie developer: is you try all these things because you can, right? You can try stuff out that no one's telling me what I can and can't do, and I really like that. I look at it as a tutorial, right? I look at that as if you were a real thief going into a real building and you couldn't access a room, I would look at that and go, oh, if I had a bomb, I could get into that room.
Yeah.
Or if I could teleport through walls, I could get into that room. Or if I had this, that, or the other toolkit, if I had a thing that would remotely detonate that mine, that would destroy that wall and I could get at that computer. And that's how I looked at things like computers in rooms on their own. And after the game launched, not everyone, a lot of people complained about that system and about how the procedural generation was broken because it would generate rooms that you couldn't access. Yeah. And I look at it as like, no, that's a tutorial. That's showing you, that's making you think about what tools you should be buying if that's the sort of place you want to be going.
Yeah, because that was my assumption when I played the first level of it, and you see a computer locked in a room and you can't get to it. I'm just like, well, I don't have the equipment to get to it.
How often does that happen in games? Like, you play through, again, the Batman games, and you get to a thing and you go, oh, okay, I can't, you get to a Riddler trophy or something, I can't get that yet because I haven't got the bit of kit that he needs to get through there. And you just walk away and come back and do it. So it was, it's not a particularly new idea, but I think it's because it's a procedurally generated game. I think a lot of people took it to mean that the level generation was broken rather than this is a deliberate design decision. This is how it, this is how it would be being a thief. I'm trying to make it, the world a little richer by making you think for yourself about how you go about things. So I spent a lot of time after launch, it's quite difficult to sit on your hands when things like that come in, because you see like half a dozen people come to you and say, this is broken, this is broken, this is broken. And you think, oh man, I've got to fix that immediately because those 6 people have complained about it. And you forget about the 5,000 people, 10,000 people just quietly nodding and going, that's cool, who don't say anything, right? Yeah. So it's quite difficult to sit in your hands. I'll just sit and wait and see what happens and whether or not I actually really want to change this based on a small amount of feedback. And I'm glad I didn't actually, because I think it is Swindle's like a unique game in a lot of ways, and I think that's one of the things that it does differently. It does a lot of things quite differently. There's no real tutorial. It lets you feel the world out for yourself, which is another one of my bugbears, basically. That I was very adamant that when I write my next game, I'm not going to mollycoddle people through the entire experience. And again, you launch a game and it goes, everyone goes, I don't understand how does this work? And you will just think about it for a second and, apply a bit of thought to the process. And, people won't, if it's not spelled out to them with a massive tooltip and a cutscene, they refuse to think things through, I think, a lot of the time. Again, that was another thing that I sort of, at one point was, starting work on a new tutorial system. and then after about 3 hours went, I don't think I should be doing this. I think I need to sit and wait and see if people actually sort of start to cotton on to what's going on.
Well, because you've got the very basic information point sort of things that are in there.
Yeah, it gives you the basics of how to use your new tools and and what you need to do, but it doesn't tell you, what enemies, what attacks enemies have, or how much health they have, or necessarily what you even need to be doing at first in a lot of sense. And that was a sort of deliberate decision. I don't want to tell you everything. Then there's no fun in it. There's no sort of sense of exploration. There's no sense of. I want people to find out there's fall damage by jumping off the top of a building.
Yep, that's how I found out.
There are so many wonderful YouTube videos of people going, I've done it, I've made it out, and jumping off the top of the roof and then coming crumpling to the floor. I'd much rather people found out how mines work by stepping on a mine 3 times than by me pausing the game and bringing up a little box going, this is a mine. if you step on a mine, it will explode, and explosions can kill you. So try not to step on mines. Is a really boring way of explaining to the player what a mine does, compared to letting them step on a mine and find out the hard way.
Yeah, and people, like, you've got a thing, you approach it, and a little thing comes up like, okay, you can now press triangle to hack the mine. I don't need any more information than that. No. That's the level I need.
Yeah. But, it's a really difficult thing to be doing. I'm always doing different stuff. I never do things the same way twice. So maybe I think the next thing will probably, by the nature of the beast, the next thing will probably be massively over tutorialized.
It's just all tutorials in the next game.
Yeah, just do a solid tutorial. There was an amazing Flash game like about 5 years ago that did the rounds. Might be even longer. Where it was a game about sending spaceships to Mars or something along those lines, and it was like a really simple Flash game. And you start playing the tutorial and it's showing you about gravity and thrust and all this sort of stuff. And then, like about 5 minutes later, you realise you've been duped and there's no game at all. And it's just like this massive, boring tutorial. I hope that's right. I hope it's not actually that there was a game at the end of it, and I've misremembered that. Maybe it really was a real game, and I thought it was a hilarious joke. But I'll have to find out. That was ace.
But talking about other games out there, one of the things we like to do on these podcasts is get people to talk about the games they've been enjoying this year or been playing this year. You actually found this quite difficult.
I did. Do you know what? I've thought of one now. I thought of two that I actually have really genuinely enjoyed. Yes. So that's good. I have worried about whether or not I've actually enjoyed any games, to the point where before we started recording, I pulled up a list on Wikipedia of all the games that have come out this year. And I scrolled down.
You're so disheartened while doing that as well.
Really well. Yeah, I know. And the thing is, there's some really good stuff, but quite a lot of it I just haven't played. Because there's stuff like Chariot, which I really want to play, and like Broken Age Part 2, I still haven't got around to playing. So like a few things have come out that are good. Still think 2. You see, there are a few things that are actually good, but and I did enjoy things like I did enjoy Arkham Knight. I played Arkham Knight through to completion. I even got all the bloody Riddler trophies.
See, I haven't done that quite yet. I've nearly done that.
It's because I had a baby, so I just after it came out. So collecting Riddler trophies was a thing that was doable, at 6 o'clock in the morning, and could be immediately put down. There weren't any
exactly
getting in the way and all that sort of stuff.
No, see, rather unfortunately, I got to the point where I'd almost done the Riddler trophies, and I was like, cool, I can finish that next weekend. And the next day, I broke my wrist, and that made it somewhat more difficult.
Yeah. Arkham Knight, I did really enjoy, but it's one of those things where it's just it does feel a little bit like the same. If it was basically Arkham City with nice graphics.
It's very much like, here's the next game in the series.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like, because I loved Arkham Asylum and Arkham City are amazing, and I really enjoyed Arkham Knight, and I think collectively they are brilliant. But it doesn't feel like a game that I played this year that has really stood out as utterly astonishing.
No,
I can tell you exactly what the best game. I've worked out what the best game that came out this year is.
What is it?
It was Lara Croft Go. Did you play Lara
Croft
Go? Yes,
that's a really good game.
How incredibly good, and it came from nowhere. And I'm not sure a massive number of people have played it.
No,
I don't know how well it did, but it is beautiful in its simplicity, and it's a masterclass in teaching you new mechanics.
Yeah,
in a sort of like the way that Portal did. It introduces stuff just so beautifully. It is, and it looks perfect, and it feels like the original Tomb Raider in so many ways.
It's the fact they've managed to get like a turn-based boss fight to work.
Yes,
that's incredible.
And there's something incredibly stupid about being chased by a turn-based boulder, but it doesn't matter. It's like it all just feels like it works in context. It was one of those games that I downloaded. I don't play a lot of mobile games. I don't play any games on my mobile phone really. But I was obviously looking for something to do, and I'm always keen to support games where you pay money and they give you the whole thing. And I'd heard a lot of good buzz about Lara Croft Go, so I picked it up, and it was just one of those experiences that I just overjoyed every step of the way. I thought it was brilliant, lovely game.
Yeah, it is absolutely fantastic. You can't say enough good things about that game.
I don't think there's a lot to say about it, is there? Though?
No,
that's basically it. It's like it's a game where you move Lara Croft around like maybe 25 levels, slowly, and then it ends. But it doesn't matter. It's not like one big thing in it. It's just this constant sort of lovely, warm, happy, well-made, beautiful feeling, I guess.
It's literally 2 or 3 real core mechanics to it, and they're all incredibly simple, and they build this game that at times is frustratingly complicated.
Yeah.
It's very well done.
Yes, it's wonderful.
Back on to the Swindle and that sort of thing. I mean, you've talked a little bit about it, but how do you find the reception, and how do you deal when you've got a game out there?
So it was difficult because I knew making it, right, this was going to be a game that people either loved or hated. It was definitely going to be something that would not appeal to a lot of people.
Yeah.
And I had in my head it's like a 50-50 sort of, people will love, some people will really like this, some people will really hate it. And that's fine. I've got to get over that. And then as it turned out, like, I don't know, like I think it's like 76% of people like it, and 24% of people hate it. So I'm kind of happy. My stats are up on what I expected, but it's still really difficult just hearing from people that it sucks. Those 24% of people who don't like how hard it is, who can't get their heads around the sort of one hit kill, or the the level generation stuff we talked about earlier, and there was did stuff differently. It's a really horrible thing putting your game out there. It's weird because it's one of those things that used to be fun. When I released Been There, Done That, and Time Gentlemen Please, which was 2008, which is quite a long time ago now. There was never going to be a backlash about any of it, right? No one was going to be mean spirited. No one was going to be unpleasant. People would just sort of go, this game's not quite for me.
Yeah,
I will walk away from it. Whereas now it feels like people are much more verbose about exactly what they hate and exactly how much they hate it, and it's difficult, and it's very difficult. There's that comic online that you keep coming back to, where you can receive 1,000 nice comments about how much people are enjoying the game, and the Swindle got great reviews in places like Eurogamer and Pocket Gamer and VG247 and loads and loads and loads of really sort of positive press. And then all you remember is the one guy on Steam saying this is awful. Right? This is awful, and this is why it's awful, and you are bad, and you should be ashamed, and I want a refund. And you go, okay, well. And unfortunately, that's what sticks in your brain, isn't it? That's the one guy that brings the whole empire crashing down, because you sort of just feel you can't go on any longer. So it's difficult. You really do have to keep on remembering the really, really good things that people have said. But
see, the thing is, like, because there are genuinely bad games out there. Bad games definitely exist, but people seem to have taken this approach, kind of as we were saying before about the tutorial elements. If they don't understand a game immediately, they assume it's terrible, and it can't be their fault. It must be the developer's fault.
Yeah, I guess so. There's loads of reasons why people don't like a game, and I have tried to over the last few years. I've stopped saying things are shit, or like I've tried to stop sort of just dismissing things offhand. Like whether it's TV show or a movie or whatever. If I didn't like it, I've tended to try my hardest to say that it wasn't to my tastes, because I genuinely don't think there's, the stuff that, is released with aplomb. There's obviously really bad stuff on Greenlight that is just lies and scams that I will be quite happy to call bad games. But, the stuff that people put effort into and actually release and stuff, if I don't like it, and there are high profile games that I don't like, and there are high profile games that you don't like, and there are people out there who don't like GTA 5 and who don't like, I don't know, Half-Life 2 or game. There are people out there who don't like stuff that is categorically brilliant, and you just kind of have to go, you know what, actually people are just different, and these things are
exactly.
subjective. And it's just I think not that I think indie games got an easier time of it years ago, but I definitely think there was a lot less vitriol around, and there was a lot less vitriol directed at the developers. I get off very lightly. I don't think I can probably count the number of bad tweets I've had directed at me on one hand. But I can see people, peers of mine who have released games, and they're just crushed under the weight of just people being unpleasant. It's really hard. It's a really harsh thing to be living with, and I know some people are sort of questioning what they're doing. Why am I spending 2 years putting together something that is only going to get me sort of abuse back? I don't know what the answer to that is.
No, there isn't really a good answer to that beyond you like what you make and you enjoy making it.
Yeah, and that's the important point of it. I think is I get a kick out of my job. I enjoy my job. It's doesn't feel like a job, right? It feels like a hobby that I do that happens to pay my mortgage. Which is lovely, I'm incredibly lucky, which is why you can't let these things get you down too much. And I don't want it's weird. This has suddenly become a really depressing conversation about bad people, but that's how it works, right? As I said, you get 1,000 really nice, uplifting comments from people
absolutely.
who are sort of really, really very pleasant and enthusiastic about your game. But the one bloke who says it's rubbish, he's the one that sort of dominates the conversation. Whereas we shouldn't be paying attention to him because he's just a grumpy socks. Let's concentrate on the nice people who like things.
I guess on that note, were you happy with the game in the end? Are you happy with what you released? And I know you were saying earlier about how some people made you want, did you implement any of those changes you were thinking about?
Do you know what? I changed some stuff I changed some stuff right from the opening of the game. People said it was really grindy at first. And it wasn't. I don't know how to explain this, but basically people were looking at the upgrades and seeing that they were all really expensive and getting disheartened by it. So what I did was I reduced the price of some of the stuff that you didn't need.
Yeah.
So it didn't change the optimal path through the game in the slightest. So I changed the price of some stuff that was just completely superfluous and completely unnecessary. And suddenly everyone was deliriously happy with how it was playing. And it's like, well, nothing has changed here. You're not going to buy this stuff, right?
Yeah.
And people, so I did change. So I changed that at the start, and I obviously fixed up the bugs, and I tweaked some control stuff, and I added some new moves for people who were sort of requesting a few bits and pieces. Who were saying they're having difficulty in certain situations and all that sort of stuff. So I did spend a couple of months fixing things and tweaking things, and there was a lot of back and forth and testing and making sure that the changes I was making were for the best and all that sort of stuff. But they were sort of quite small things in of themselves. The big sweeping stuff that adding more tutorials or taking out those sort of procedurally generated tutorials about working things out for yourself. No, I'm delightedly happy that I didn't change any of that. I don't think it would have made the game better. I think it would have appeased a lot of people who have become accustomed to having their hand held through games and not really having to sort of think for themselves and experience things. But I don't know if I'm really making a game for those people. I've had more comments about people who really appreciated the stuff the Swindle does in terms of not holding your hand than I have people not liking what it did. So I think it's basically fallen on the right side.
Obviously, as well, you had Curve supporting you on. I believe, was it only on the PS4 port?
No, they did all the ports. They did.
Okay.
So I did the Steam versions, all mine. Steam Windows and Mac versions are my domain, and then they took my code and made it work on all the other stuff. So that's entirely their side of things.
And how did you find the process of working with them?
It's really weird because there's suddenly, I've spent the last, I don't know, like 6 years as an indie developer, just doing my own thing. And I did stuff for Channel 4, which was slightly different. But like by and large, most of my games have been just things I've made and then I put online and sold, and the sort of buck stops with me quite a lot. And working with someone else who is obviously this big company who it feels like they're grown ups, and I'm just like this idiot is sitting in his bedroom making video games, and there's a proper company with an office that has an office manager, and they have like a water cooler. They have water in their office that just comes, and they're like organized and sophisticated enough to organize someone to come in and bring them bottles of water and put it on the stand and all that sort of stuff that, like that grown up company stuff.
Yeah.
That, so you suddenly feel like kind of beholden, oh my God, I've signed a contract, which means that I can't sort of mess around and just sort of wing it and all that sort of stuff. So you suddenly you feel a bit more sort of pressure on your shoulders, I guess, that, all right, I'm making this game, but there's also, there's another company sort of financially and sort of emotionally invested in it doing well, is a burden that I haven't really had to think about before. I don't think the full force of it hit me until quite late in the day, really, when we were sort of approaching, if we want to release it this summer, we need it finished by this specific date, which I think it was the 4th of May was like the absolute total cutoff date, and I spent April waking up at 5 a.m. Coming upstairs to the office and sort of sitting down and working through till sort of 10, half 10 at night, and then sort of staggering back downstairs again. And I was very sort of shut off and made myself quite ill, and in quite a nice way, because it was just something I wouldn't have ever done if it weren't for the fact that there's suddenly a load of other people at the other end of the line that are sort of relying on me not messing up. So yeah, really weird. I think if I did it again, I would make sure that we weren't I wasn't as beholden to that sort of deadline. It wasn't like the deadline was, we would have gone past it. That's fine, but the problem then is it was an arbitrary deadline, put it that way. But that's sort of steeped in the fact that console certification process takes a while, and so we were talking. So that was May, and we were talking about getting it through console certification to release in July, because once you get past August, you might as well not bother releasing, because Fallout 4 and Halo 5 and Metal Gear Solid 5 and Assassin's Creed and all this sort of stuff, you haven't got a hope in hell's chance. So May last year or April last year, we were talking about, if it's not done sort of start of May time, we won't be really, we'll probably be wanting to release the Swindle January, February, and now February is like this whole other problem, right? So now it's looking at, like, if it's not done by May, we might be delaying it for a year just to find a slot where it just doesn't die on its arse. And oh man, that's weird, right?
Yeah.
So I think, the Swindle's done really well. Like, it's critically and financially, it's done well enough to keep me going for a good long time yet. So I think if I did another game, if I did put it out on consoles and did go, talk to Curve about doing all that sort of thing, I think we'd have to have a serious conversation about deadlines and, releasing it sensibly. I mean, what do? Do you sit on a game for a year?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean,
like, that's not easy.
Probably yes, right? If my next game is basically done in September, I'd definitely sit on it until after Christmas.
Yeah.
I've got the cash to do that now, but I'd sit on it until after Christmas. There's no way I'd release September, October, November. And there's no way I'd release, when's No Man's Sky coming out? That's June, isn't it? So God, there's no point in releasing June next year, right? It's really weird. You have to sort of swim around all these other people who are definitely going to sell more copies of their game than you, and who are going to take it time. Because I can see my my Steam sale graph was trotting along quite nicely until Fallout 4 came out. Like it even weathered, Metal Gear Solid and Halo 5. Anecdotally, if you want to run a story about how badly they performed, they didn't influence my sales whatsoever. My sales carried on quite happily. Fallout 4 came out, and my sales dropped off a cliff. It just sort of pretty much halved, I think, or slightly more than halved. And they're slowly crawling back up now that people are getting bored of Fallout 4. But crikey, it's a really weird thing to have to be thinking about for just some bloke who likes sitting at his desk making explosions and sort of messing around on a computer. It's a really weird thing to have to be thinking about it,
Yeah.
There you go.
It's not an element people talk about a lot, particularly the smaller games.
Yeah.
But
I mean, there's always, there's always the chance that you'll get lucky, right? And you'll just become this complete zeitgeist thing. Like, what's come out recently that's done that? There was a game I was looking at thinking, wow, this is done incredibly well for, is it Undertale? Maybe it's not Undertale.
Undertale, yeah.
But like, for a sort of like small, sort of quite visually simple game has got a lot of people playing it and a lot of people talking about it. It's kind of hit that thing. You could but there's no way you could guarantee that, right? There's no way you could release Undertale in September and be confident that it's going to outdo all the big boys.
Not at all. There generally isn't a way you could release it and be confident that it would do well enough.
Yeah. But these things happen, I guess. Like Rocket League, right? Rocket League is one of those games that could have died on its arse.
Easily. So easily.
It's football with cars. And there is something about it, but I mean, I don't know, you could write an essay on why Rocket League has become the phenomenon it has. And there's a parallel universe somewhere where it's died on its arse. Yeah.
Because being good is not always enough.
No, I guess not. No. But it's a really weird thing. And it's something that sits at the back of your mind. I remember writing Time Gentlemen Please, and Time Gentlemen Please took 9 months to write. And I remember lying in bed worrying about what I was doing, making this stupid game about these two idiots traveling through time and solving puzzles. I was like, no one plays adventure games. This is stupid. Why am I should be making something that people, I should be making a platform game or something, that people are actually interested in. And then Time Gentlemen Please went on to sell like enough copies to, give me the confidence and make me comfortable enough to go full-time indie developer.
Yeah.
And Time Gentlemen Please still brings in, a decent amount of cash even after 6 years. So, it just goes to show you never can tell, I guess. You just sort of keep your head down and hope for the best.
Right, another game that you told me you wanted to talk about was Satellite Rain.
Satellite Rain.
Tell me all about Satellite Rain. This is a game I've heard of but can't remember anything about.
I was one of my favorite games ever was Syndicate. The summer of 1993, I basically played Syndicate over and over and over again. It was a beautiful, astonishing piece of work. That I was always really disappointed that no one sort of kept on making that sort of thing, really. And then Satellite Rain did a Kickstarter as a sort of spiritual successor to Syndicate, and did really well, and came out, and it's beautiful and it's brilliant. And it's one of those things that I think, like looking at the reviews and stuff, I think it got a much harder ride than it deserved. I'm not quite sure why, but it feels so much like Syndicate. It feels like a big open world Syndicate. I love the fact that you have these 4 agents and you get your missions in the field. There's no sort of flipping back and forth to, mission select screens and like Syndicate had. You just get everything in the field, and it feels like this real world that there's sort of various sectors that are sort of locked off to you, and you keep on gradually increasing your skills until you get good enough to get in there and get at them. And it's exactly the Syndicate game. I always really wanted EA to make Syndicate, and even when they were making Satellite Reign, there's a little bit at the back of my brain that was going, yeah, but it's not Syndicate. I sort of want Syndicate, but actually, having played Satellite Reign, that itch is scratched. Now I don't care if EA never make another Syndicate game. The Satellite Reign has done it for me. It's not perfect. I'm only sort of, I'm about halfway through it, but it feels like it's got too high an emphasis on stealth for my liking. I've got 4 agents with guns, but getting into gunfights doesn't really seem a valid way of getting through quite a lot of the game, or getting through quite a lot of these sort of sectors. I forgot what they're called now. They call them something trendy, but the sectors that you can go to. And it feels like so much of the game has been pushed around the idea of hacking and breaking and entering without being seen, that when it does come to fisticuffs, you're just massively underpowered. So I'm kind of keen to push through that and get through to a bit where I have just got a load of guys with miniguns that can just storm into any building and take everyone down. I hope it does open out in that way, because one of the great things about Syndicate, about the original Syndicate, was that you could do things however you liked. So there'll be an assassinate mission, and if you want to you could stick an agent up on a roof with a sniper rifle, or you could lay a bomb in the middle of the road and wait for his car to go over it, and all these kind of different ways of going about things. It was really good, but the one downside I think of Satellite Reign is that it's a little bit, the solution to this is not being seen. Which is, but that's not to, I think that's doing it a disservice. It's easier to talk about the bad things about games. It's beautiful and it's exhilarating and exciting and an incredible little world that they've done such a really, really good job of. And the fact that I don't want a Syndicate game now, I think speaks volumes. Yeah. having spent the last sort of 20 years desperately wishing that someone would make a new Syndicate game, I don't need it anymore. So that's that done. Now I can now go back to hoping someone will make a decent Sonic the Hedgehog game, and then I can die happy.
That seems way less likely.
A decent Sonic the Hedgehog game is so easy to make. That's the most galling thing about Sonic the Hedgehog games, is a Sonic game, like a beautiful 2D cartoony Sonic doesn't talk game that understands that Sonic the Hedgehog wasn't about speed. It was about momentum. It was about physics as a result of momentum. And now with the physics engines we have, making a decent Sonic the Hedgehog game is so easy. But unfortunately, what they do is they stick it in 3D, and which doesn't work.
No,
and they make it about speed. So you can't see what's going on anytime. It's just a sort of this horrible blitz through levels, whereas it should have been about momentum. Like that, get it? Remember the bits in Sonic where you were at the bottom of a well, and you had to run left and then run right and left and right and get a bit faster each and every time.
Yeah.
Like using speed to get out of a well was what Sonic was about. If you look at any level past Green Hill Zone, they're platform games that use physics.
They are, yeah. That's a very good point.
And so, yeah, that's what's so upsetting about Sonic the Hedgehog is not that they keep on putting out rubbish games. It's that it's so easy to make a decent Sonic the Hedgehog game. They should I said this before on Twitter, they just need to basically give up, and instead of spending whatever, they probably spend like $3 million on a new Sonic the Hedgehog game, or probably more. Instead of doing that, they just need to go to a load of talented indie developers and just go, here's $100,000, make a Sonic the Hedgehog game.
Yeah.
Like, who wouldn't want to see Vlambeer make a Sonic the Hedgehog
game? That'd be amazing. That would be incredible.
Who wouldn't, like Cappy Games making taking the Super Time Force engine and making a Sonic the Hedgehog game out of it? Would just be wicked.
It'd be great. Oh, that would actually be really good.
We did talk about doing there was a conversation at one point about doing a Sonic the Hedgehog game jam with a bunch of indie developers making Sonic the Hedgehog games. And
I received legal advice that we should probably not. So it's
it's not. Doesn't seem like a great idea.
I even making a Chronic the Porcupine.
Yeah.
Game jam. Whereas whatever. You've just got to make the only stipulation is you've got to make a game about small blue porcupine.
Yeah.
And then, apart from that, go nuts. It is a great idea. I hope someone does that. I haven't got time for game jams. I'm not talented enough for game jams. I like the idea of doing them every time one comes up. I haven't got time to do it, but who has a weekend where they can just sort of sit and make games all weekend, but for 48 hours straight. But I know that after 48 hours, I wouldn't even have a cube on the screen. I'd still be working on the camera, like getting, I don't have the talent to make something that quickly. I can make things slowly. I make things slowly and well rather than quick and dirty. There you go.
All right, well, we'll talk about making things. What is next for you?
I'm not talking about what's next because I keep on making this mistake about announcing things and then unannouncing them and then re-announcing them. And I announced a sequel to Time Gentlemen Please, and then I cancelled it and announced the Swindle and cancelled it and postponed it and all sorts. And we've talked about doing other Dan and Ben games, and I'm working on something at the moment that it looks good and it's coming together nicely, and it should be hopefully a sort of fun and unique little thing that hopefully won't take too long to make once the sort of foundations are laid. So I'm looking forward to talking about it, but I'm slightly wary about telling people about things too soon now, in case I don't want to get this reputation of Dan Marshall. He announces games and then changes his mind. Then changes his mind on a whim and unannounces them. I still get people coming up to me and like saying, "You're working on the." It's awful. You get people going, "You working on a game called The Balloon-Headed Mexican?" I say, "No, I cancelled that." And then people say, "Oh, I'm really sad you cancelled the Swindle." And I uncancelled the Swindle. I released it. And they go, "Do you? Oh God!" It's one of those things that I just sort of. I think I've learned a lesson. I don't want to Molyneux myself, do I? I want to sort of. Don't want to get like a reputation of capacity, so I'll keep quiet about what I'm doing until. But I've basically got a list of Swindle bugs that are sort of slowly coming in. I'm slowly fixing, and I'll put a patch. I'll keep patching the Swindle and doing stuff for it. I considered doing DLC for the Swindle, but I just don't think it's we were talking about the Zeitgeist earlier. I think the Swindle's done really well, and I think people are enjoying it, and it is what it is, and it's done well critically and commercially. But I don't think it hit that Zeitgeist thing that I don't know. Let's say Binding of Isaac or something like that. Or Spelunky or anything like that kind of hit it. Yeah. So I at one point was sort of thinking about DLC or introducing sort of daily challenge modes, and so I spent a month afterwards looking at daily challenge modes, and there's a lot of requests for endless mode as well, which was a big thing that people really wanted for the Swindle. But so I spent a month implementing them, and they just didn't work at all. It's one of those things. It's one of those things where again, Dan Marshall announcing things, but like on the Steam forums, and people are saying, "Are you going to do a daily challenge mode? We'd love a daily challenge mode." Yeah, okay. Got big plans for daily challenge mode. I'm really interested in doing it. It's and then
nothing happens.
Well, no. I spent a month trying to make it fun, and it just wasn't. It just didn't work. It was really. It took everything out of the Swindle that I really, really liked. The Swindle is this sort of long game, this long con, it's a 100-day thing. And what makes the Swindle enticing is the day countdown, and
very much so.
It's such a core part of it. And everything in a way kind of revolves around that. And so doing daily challenges is one of those things that seems really simple, but didn't work because there's a certain point where you've got to bring time limits into it. If let's say everyone plays the same building and there's £100,000 in the building, and then you rank against your friends.
Yeah.
How much of the cash you stole? Well, at some point, people are going to steal £100,000 worth of the cash, and you think, well, how do you then rank the people who stole £100,000? And the answer is who did it quickest.
Yeah.
And well, the thing about the Swindle is putting a time limit on the Swindle kills the fun on it in a really weird way. That if you can. The reason the Swindle works is because you can take your time on each level.
Yeah.
There's no individual time pressure. There's no ticking clock within the level. And as soon as you put one in, it stops being fun. It starts being tense, and it starts getting annoying because you're making mistakes because you're trying to do things quickly. It's not good. So I spent a lot of time trying to work out other ways of ranking people who had all stole £100,000, and it just didn't work. It's just one of those things that you get to a certain point, you just go, this is. I'm just going to have to admit that this game doesn't work with the daily challenge mode. I'll keep thinking about it. I'll go back to it. Maybe at Christmas I'll go back and have another plug with fresh eyes and see if I can work something out that isn't awful. But there you go. That's one of those things. So there's a list of Swindle things. There's a list of Swindle things that I need to keep on coming back to and updating. And people are still reporting the occasional bug. But day to day, I'm now fully focused on the next thing and making sure that's brilliant and having a lot of fun with it. Actually, it's quite a nice little thing to be working on. Well, I've been having fun with it until like the last 3 days, where I'm trying to get it save and loading.
Yeah,
and save load code is always the worst code, and in this game it's just a complete nightmare. So I spent the last 3 days just sort of having the worst time. But there you go.
All right, well, that's at least there's something coming. We know there's something down the line.
There is. I'll announce it as soon as I'm pretty confident I'm not going to cancel it.
Okay, fair enough. That's fair. Right, well, I assume you haven't got any more games you want to talk about.
No, because that's it. That's
you've run out.
I'm still scrolling through this list, and there's games that I desperately want to play. Super Time Force, that was this year, wasn't it?
That's a good game.
I really enjoyed Super Time Force. That was lovely. And I bought it when it came out on PC, and then it was on PS Plus a couple of months ago, I think. And so I didn't feel too bad about grabbing it on PS Plus because I'd already paid for it. And had much more fun with it on the PlayStation version than I did on PC. I think it's more of a sort of sitting down on the sofa sort of game, I think. Than that.
Yeah, it very much is.
That was beautiful, and it was really, it was really good fun.
It's the time travel mechanics in it are smart.
I know it really hurts my brain a lot of the time. Like some of the big boss battles I had no idea what was going on for quite a lot of it. But there you go.
But there are bits of it where you're kind of doing the platformy bits, and it's intelligent in that they've managed to almost like make speed running a mechanic of the game.
Yeah.
And it's
so very smart. Clever. Very good.
Yeah, I love it.
No, I'm going through the list of games still. I'm down to like October, and there's nothing. See, I missed Until Dawn as well. I should play Until Dawn. There's a lot of things on this list that I should have played.
Okay.
I played the first 4 minutes of Volume. I'd really like to play more Volume.
I like that's your limit.
Do you know? I think something came up. I think a baby started crying, and I had to stop playing it, and then that was it. Yeah, there are lots of things that have come out. I just haven't played them. I've had a really off year this year. I've only played things that have left me. Oh, Invisible Ink came out this year as well. I still haven't played Invisible Ink. For someone who plays XCOM every year, like pretty solidly, you think I'd have got around to booting up Invisible Ink once, but just okay, maybe that's what I'll do now. Right, let's wrap this up because I need to go play Invisible Ink. I'm going to have to go and play some games and make myself feel better about 2015 as a year.
Excellent. Have you got any social media stuff you want to pimp out?
My only social media is Dan Nat on Twitter, DANTHAT, which is my Twitter thing.
And also you can go to, what is it, size5games.com?
Size5games.com. There's not much on Size5Games. I don't think do people still go to websites these days?
Probably not, to be honest.
I've been thinking about just pulling it down and just putting like a single page that just links to my Twitter and to Steam. It seems really silly maintaining pages in this day and age. But so size5games.com is where you can find out all the things about
all the games that exist.
All the games and things.
Yeah. But excellent. Well, it's been lovely talking to you, Dan. Thanks very much for joining me today.
Thank you very much. Really nice to speak to you.
Excellent. All right. Well, look, that's going to do it for this edition of the Year According To. We will be back very soon with even more of these as we talk to more people from development side of stuff and from the writing side of things. But for now, goodbye.
The Sixth Axis podcast.